Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'd love to talk to you about the circular pathing I use on my island. When I started my new plantcore island, I knew that I wanted to have some type of pathing that would allow me to be a bit more creative. Before, I used to use the 9-tile pathing and just have like a dirt path with maybe some details, but I honestly felt a bit limited by it because you couldn't really implement lots of designs unless they were like on picnic blankets or maybe on any other type of fabric or maybe even like magazines and stuff like that. And then I thought I would just try out the circular pathing and kind of see how I like it. And I have to say, I absolutely love it. I love the look of it, and I also very much enjoy the process of putting it down, even when it sometimes can be a bit frustrating, as we'll talk about in just a minute. But I really do enjoy it, and I get lots and lots of compliments for it all the time. So I thought I would sit down, kind of explain to you the process of me laying this path down, and just some tips and tricks about the designs I use for this pathing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I started thinking about what was the best way to kind of show you this and explain this to you, and because I always do it on stream and the path is kind of the first thing I lay down, I thought it might be easiest for me to explain this just on this flat part of my land. And before we get to the actual designs, I wanted to explain that you can do circular shapes with the in-game pathing. So you have 8 different choices in total. So for example, the dirt path or the stone path. I usually always use the dirt or the dark dirt pathing, and what you can do is you can just lay down a 2x2 tile and then round the corners, and that way you will get a perfect circle. You could also just round these 2 opposing corners and you get this kind of nice petal shape, which you can do 4 pieces of, which also gives you a very, very nice pattern. But for this pathing that I do, I always use the circles. And so this way you have a perfect circle. And now if you choose a different pathing, you can then do this next to it. Now pay attention to using different versions, because if I were to use the dark dirt path again on this side, it would just connect those 2, and now I'm not able to actually round it off. So you do need to use different shapes. And another option for you to do circular shapes without the in-game pathing is to use custom designs. Those will always be 4 tiles, so you can actually put down a circle. And a lot of these are actually just the corner pieces of full 9-tile pathings. I do have this flower circle and this lace rug, but both these brown dirt versions as well as these grass versions actually are a full-on 9-tile pathing. Now I've done 2 videos on this channel showcasing different versions of the path, which I'll be linking down below, because maybe you can find versions that you really enjoy. And what you can basically do is put these down just as a circle. If you do that from your phone, this is how you do it. Or of course you can also just use this island designer tool. And those are basically the 2 different options you have to implement circular shapes on your island. And now let's go ahead and talk about different colors and different patterns. Now, when using the circular pathing, it'll kind of draw a lot of attention to it. There's a lot going on already, and so I find that I quite like it best when there's only a few colors going on and also just some very neutral colors to kind of ground it. So these are all the designs that I use for my pathing. I'll try to link them as well as the original creators down below in the description box, so make sure that you check those out. But I basically have about 4 different colors. So I have brown with these 2 circular dirt shapes, as well as this cobblestone and this like brick version. I have cream color codes with this flower circle as well as the lace rug. I also use a bit of gray with this brick as well as this daisy tile. And then one very important color of my entire island, of course, is the green. And I actually have these 4 different fabric codes that I can implement on the in-game pathing. And additionally, I also have these 2 circular shapes that are kind of just mossy or grassy. And now let's go ahead and get to some things that you need to pay attention to when selecting your custom designs. Now, the first thing I would say is kind of try and decide which of these in-game pathings you'd like to have as your base, because whatever you do end up using will kind of be seen through the design. So let's say I use the brick pathing and I just put down these 2 tiles and then put another design on top of it. You would kind of be able to see those brick lines through it. Now, it's not really that noticeable, but it definitely is there. And so if this is something you don't really want, then I would definitely recommend using the dirt pathing. And then once you've decided on two different versions of the in-game pathing to use, for me that is definitely the dark dirt as well as the lighter dirt version, try and test your designs on top of them. Because something to really be aware of is that the designs will kind of also be influenced by this. So this is the exact same design, but you can see how different the shades are for this. So there are a few of these designs that I actually prefer on the dark dirt pathing. Like for example, let's say this brick version, I very much prefer this to be on the darker than on the lighter dirt. For others, it's kind of nice to have a bit of variety, but this is definitely something to keep in mind, first of all, when choosing your designs, but also, and maybe more importantly, when actually laying down your pathing. Now, the next thing to pay attention to when selecting your designs, I'd actually like to show you in the portal so you can kind of immediately see the difference in between the designs. So if you've ever wondered why certain creators upload apparently two of the same designs, let me actually point out the difference. Now, as you might notice, this is one of the designers I actually use quite a lot of different designs from. They're incredibly talented, and also of course will be linked down below. But as you can see here, we have a triple green check and then also a triple green check ST. The ST here stands for see-through. Of course, not every creator names their designs like this, but let's go ahead and download both of these different versions, and then let me show you the actual difference in between them. Okay, we have both designs downloaded, so let's go ahead and actually implement them and take a look at the difference in between them. So let's try first with the regular triple check, and as soon as you place down, you notice it is not adapting to the circle, and that is because there is no see-through pixel in this design. As soon as, however, we choose the one where one see-through pixel, as you can see pretty close to the center, has been left, and there's actually also the additional ST in the title, you can see that now it is definitely adapting to the circle, and it is also kind of adapting to the shading of the dark dirt path. So this is definitely something to keep in mind when selecting your designs. You will need ones that have a see-through pixel. There are ones that I wanted to use on my in-game pathing, like this one for example, but I can't because there is no version with a see-through pixel. So whenever you select codes for these in-game pathing circles, this is something you really need to keep in mind. And the last thing to also keep in mind is something about the beach, because here you can't actually put down any of the in-game pathing. So if you want to also use this circular pathing on your beach, you will actually need these custom design circular path versions. And that is actually why I'm using these green ones, because as I'm doing a plantcore theme, I really wanted to bring this theme over to the beach as well. And the only way to lay down path here is for it to be a custom design, and then it works perfectly. So just keep this in mind. If you want to have some on your beach as well, you will need some actual custom design circles. All right, so let's go ahead and just kind of determine point A right here, and then also go all the way over here. Of course, the path does need to have a certain length to kind of demonstrate it, and determine point number B. So this is essentially what we're trying to connect here. We want to get from this stop block to the one over there. Now, the first thing I always do, and I actually do this right after I did the landscaping, so if I have the general landscaping done, maybe some of the waterscaping, although I do add that on later, one of the first things will be laying down the path, just because I need to have like a general direction of it to be able to then work around it. And the way I start is I just put down these 2x2 tiles. I don't even round them, I just kind of try and see a natural shape. Now, let me show you what not to do with this pathing. So, of course, this is absolutely a personal preference, but I try to not have it be too straight, because let me finish this and show you what that looks like. All right, so I put it down to kind of show you this. For me personally, it just looks a bit too fake, if that makes any sense. Now, of course, this is also completely dependent on your island theme. As I'm going for a more natural island theme, and I do have some terraforming and waterscaping and stuff, this just really wouldn't make sense and wouldn't work with the way that I kind of have my pathing generally kind of laid out from A to B. But yeah, so if you do all of them just in a straight line, this is what you will end up with. Of course, like I said, dependent on the theme, this could also be very nice. But for me, in this more natural look, I try to not have more than 2 circles in the same way. So after this lighter dirt one, I would then change the direction of this one. And after having shown you this like straight on path, let me show you a second version that I try to avoid. Alright, and here we have the second version that I kind of try to avoid because it is just a bit too symmetrical. So we always have 2 going to the right, 2 going to the left, 2 going to the right, and then the next one would also be here. It can work with decorations around it, but it feels a bit too symmetrical for me and my personal preferences. However, like I said, if you are going for like a more city core, urban, or just kind of symmetrical theme, honestly, this could also just be very, very pretty. But since I'm trying to explain how I kind of put down the pathing, I would try to avoid this as well. Alright, and now let's actually do it for real and do it the way that I would usually do. Something to keep in mind about this type of pathing is also you might not get it right the first try, but that is totally okay. I constantly readjust and ask for opinions, so no worries about that. But the way I usually do is I switch in between the dark dirt and the light dirt, and then I kind of try not have too many straight pieces or also not have too many pieces kind of going in the exact same direction and pattern. Now with this going from A to B, which is kind of a straight pathing, I do think it's a bit harder. Usually you do need to do the pathing from A to B that when it's like a bit further apart or there's like a natural slope or a curve or anything like that. But I guess what I would try to do is just alternate. So, you know, like this one, for example, I've placed 1 tile further to the bottom. And now let's say I would use a piece to kind of go straight up. And so here I've now done this like short straight piece. And so I would probably change the direction of it. I guess I would probably even go 1 more to the right before I then curve inwards again. And I would really try and offset this with either cliffs or waterscaping or maybe even trees. We might try and put a tree there in a second. And as you can also see, I constantly readjust this. Now here, I wouldn't do another straight piece because we have that going on here. And so I don't want to repeat that. And this could either go like this, or one tile up. Let me actually look at this, which is, by the way, also something I do all the time. So no worries if you get something wrong and if you need to readjust. Let's try this out for a second and let's see how it actually looks once we have kind of continued this pathing. Also, you know, as with everything else kind of as well, you always need to keep in mind that this area is not decorated whatsoever. So the pathing might just look a bit weird. So I don't like this like tiny gap that you end up having here. So I will actually go ahead and switch this up a tile and kind of adjust everything and see how that looks. Let me get the grass to kind of remove this. It's a way faster way to remove this because otherwise you would curve it first and then remove it. So if you just need to get rid of some type of pathing, I recommend using the grass tool. And now let's go ahead and take a look at this. I guess I would now go ahead and do another straight piece and then probably go and curve 1 to the left. And we might actually have to move our stop block here just by like 1 tile. So let's go ahead and do that, push that over here, and then actually do this last piece. And so now this is kind of what you end up with. It does do like a giant curve over here, which looking at it now, I might not be super happy with it. So let's go ahead and actually change that. Bring this in right here, more like this type of pathing. Of course, we then need to remove this outer piece. And as you can see, we now have 2, 2, 2, which I also don't really love. So we're just gonna go ahead and adjust this. I could have shown you a perfect tutorial. I could have laid this out beforehand and kind of looked at it before, but quite honestly, this is how I do it. I constantly struggle with it, but it's also just a lot of fun to figure it out. And once you've noticed that it's coming together, it's really, really awesome. Okay, so we now have this going on. And now maybe I would actually go ahead and bring this 1 tile in again and then remove, of course, the outer piece right here. And this could already be it, maybe. This could already be it, although I feel like this might be a bit too symmetrical, so we might just bring this one in, and then of course we end up half a tile or one tile over to the right, but I feel like that is not too bad. All right, and the next step would be rounding all of this out. Like I said, trying to do this as a straight path is kind of hard, so you would need to kind of curve it, but then it does look a bit weird. There's no cliffs, there's no waterscaping, there's no, nowhere to like hide stuff around. But yeah, let me actually round these off and then get back to you in just a minute. And now, as you can see, it already also looks so different. And now let's go ahead and do the design. So like I told you before, there's a few that I really prefer on the dark dirt. So like, let's say we kind of start with this tile right here, which I personally really like a lot better on the dark dirt. The one you start with is pretty much up to you. This is, nothing else is done yet, so that is totally okay. And now what I just try and pay attention to is not to have two designs of kind of the same color scheme next to each other. So I probably wouldn't use this like daisy tile next to it because it's also kind of this gray shade. I probably would go for more like a brown or cream color right here. And I'd probably try and stay away from the bricks as well because those are also technically kind of bricks. I feel like I want to do the dirt pathing with the flowers on the side, and for that you actually have to remove this design, which is also something you might have to work with if you decide to implement this pathing. Is that kind of sometimes you do end up removing or adjusting certain tiles, and like for this, for example, now that we've done this like custom design, what we have here doesn't really matter. So we could actually switch these around. Now start with a light dirt, then dark, then light, then dark. I hope you know what I mean because it is kind of hard to explain, but that is kind of the way that I would go. All right, and now I guess I would try and use some green to kind of, balance this like darker and more dull coloring. We could try maybe this checkered print right here, which is kind of dark. So let's try a different one in a second. But this one could definitely work. Maybe this one is a bit better. Also still very dark. Let me try instead maybe this one. Yeah, I personally think I kind of prefer this version. So let's go ahead and use that. And now I feel like we could do maybe like the circular lace rug. So also let me remove this tile right here and then just use the lace rug. Okay, let me put that down. That should kind of be a nice color balance, I believe, and kind of offset this like darker color scheme right here. Yeah, I'm okay with that. And now maybe we could try the other gray pattern that we have, which is this like daisy tile, which I also prefer on the dark dirt, so that's awesome. Yeah, I definitely like this, and now I think it's time for another green. And since we have the lighter path going on right here, we could definitely use one of these dark prints because they will be lightened a bit on this tile right here. Let me try these two in comparison. And then I think after that we can definitely use another brown. So I want to try and use either the cobblestones or the bricks. It kind of, maybe the cobblestones would be better because they also implement a few flowers, which are a bit lighter in color. You could definitely also do like this split down the middle circle, or even do 4 different designs on one circle if you kind of want to. I guess it kind of depends on which ones both could work, but I feel like maybe it's better to use the cobblestone center for this one and then use the checkered print for this other one like this. And I believe I'd like to have the flower circle here and then maybe this one over here. It's a bit lighter, but also on this dark dirt it kind of is a bit darker still, although maybe it could also be better on this one. Let me try the flower circle and put that down first because it is quite light, so I do believe it will kind of offset this like darker theme that we currently have. Okay, so I think I'm kind of okay with this. Once again, this is not decorated, so it might look a bit weird. I'll try to do that in a second, but let me just kind of show you what I mean. So we have a gray design here, and then over here we have some brown here with the stirred pathing and with the cobblestones. And then we have some different green shades going on all over. And of course, also these two cream coats that kind of offset this like darker mood. And that's always how I do it. So I kind of try to switch between the colors. And then once I get to like a certain point where I like it, I then kind of start the decorating. And then sometimes I notice later on that I may just not like it too much, but you can always adapt. All right, now let me get a few decorations and trees and stuff like that and kind of try and make this a bit more realistic. Okay, and with this I would say let's actually just plant a few trees and just kind of try and frame this area. I'm not going to do too much. This is not supposed to be like a speed build or anything like that. I'm just going to try and like implement a few trees to anchor this, because I do feel like it already will look so different. I did also bring a few decorative pieces which might work. So let's see if that kind of does the trick. Looking at this now, I think that I want to change this circle right here. I don't know if this is a lighter one. It is a dark dirt. Okay. And I actually want to bring this in line with this flower and dirt one. I do like the design. I just personally don't think that this far off to the right circle is like right for this area. So let's just kind of try and put this here instead with the same pattern on top. Yeah, I definitely like this a lot better. Okay, now let's continue just placing a few items and trees and so on. And as you already can kind of see, it already gets like a very different vibe just with some trees framing it, because it already covers a lot of the actual like destination, which makes this path just so much better. Also, what I really like to use is these leaf piles. I prefer the green ones just because, you know, plantcore and stuff. And I especially like to use them on like the lace rug because it kind of shields this very light pattern and implements it a bit more to the rest of the designs. And also just to kind of cover some edges and kind of stuff like that. Now, as you might know, leaf piles are kind of hard to place, so this sometimes takes a few tries. But also, once again, I feel like this definitely adds a lot to the entire area. Let's just place a few more things. Also, as we're still in cherry blossom season, the, you know, coloring of the trees might not be the best for my island either. But of course, this one would definitely change. And let's just place a few items just to kind of give that kind of feeling. And as you might be able to tell, this already sends such a different vibe. And then also, you know, there's still tons and tons of other design codes that you might use. So let's say you put down, you know, like a flower like this, just make everything a bit more special and pretty. I do have some leaf designs that I always like to plop down. And you can, for example, around these plants, it's always a great thing to implement some like smaller circular designs, like let's say this daisy wreath. I have lots and lots of design codes everywhere on my island. But yeah, this is basically how I lay down my path. So first I just start by laying down the in-game pathing in a 2x2 pattern, and I then round them off to give more of this like circular pathing illusion, and then I add designs, paying attention to not using the same colors twice in a row. And last but not least, you know, I do add trees and I decorate, and as you might have been able to tell from this video, sometimes it doesn't come together until you add the decorations. And even if now you notice that, you know, one specific path is kind of laid out in a weird way and you'd like to change it, go ahead and do that. Honestly, I change mine all the time. I even went back like 2 weeks later to still change parts of it. So don't be afraid if you don't get it right on the first try. But this is somewhat the process that I do to lay down this pathing. I definitely hope that that was somewhat helpful. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, if you have any further questions, put them down in the comments. I'd love to answer them if I can, of course. And also, if you have any further tips about custom designs or this circular pathing, then go ahead and also plop them down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope, like I said, that this helped you or that you were able to draw some inspiration from it. All the codes will be linked down below, as well as the social media handles of all the amazing creators. And that is pretty much all I have to say for this video, I think. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again very soon in one of my videos. And until then, I hope that you have an awesome time. Bye!